on this week's Rockstar Superhero. An email arrived in my inbox a few days back, and I was more than surprised to read that a favorite band of mine had gone into indefinite hiatus. But that same musical pause had birthed a new project that quickly excited me. It turns out this new band was fronted by a friend of mine, and well, we had to get together to chat about it. So, to keep you in suspense a tiny bit longer, check out my chat with Tony and Ron from new metallic hardcore and thrash luminaries, Fate's Messenger. This is Rockstar Superhero.
I said to Will, I said, look, whatever's going to happen with Above All, I said, look, going forward, I'm getting really frustrated here because, time's ticking, want to get things moving. So if you ever do any little side projects, just keep me in mind. And literally 2 weeks later, he said, look, got an old pal, Ron, because none of us actually live anywhere near each other, really.
Right.
Which is the beauty of technology these days. We've been able to put this stuff together. And, so we all sort of got put in touch with each other, and Ron sent his files out, and I was like literally like a kid in a candy store, because it was just all these songs and riffs just programmed in, ready to go. So I've literally just been handpicking, going down through the list, started working on the vocals, and it's just really come together really quickly and really well, Ron, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you think, so, like we say, we pressed go on the 12th of November. There's 6 tracks that are ready to release.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's everything. That's the drums tracked, the guitars, the bass. So I already had these songs done. So I programmed a load of the drums, I programmed bass to start off with, just to get the kind of pattern. Handed it over to these guys. Tony literally spat lyrics in about 2 seconds and sent them back to me, recorded.
Yeah.
And then Will was like, right, sat in his little den, smashed out the drums to it, said, right, I'll keep that bit there. He's like, You've actually programmed these fills really well. I think I'm going to keep those ones. Well, that's yes. Fucking guitarist programming the drums, writing the drum pieces.
Nice.
But yeah, he smashed the drums out, sent it over to the bass player. He smashed the bass, and then I've mixed and mastered it, and bosh.
Yeah, I think we just got in a really good routine, and I think for me personally, I mean, I know Ron's been sitting on these songs for probably various lengths, but for me, I've been
about 5 years. I think.
Yeah, 5 years. I've been sort of biding my time. We have got together as a 4-piece with Above All, but it's becoming clearly evident that Ben was going to be touring a lot, and I'm not saying that we might not do anything in the future at some point, but it's not going to be in the foreseeable future. So
right. It's defunct right now.
Well, yeah, for all intents and purposes, and that's no one's fault, as I said. And I think I was just literally, ever since I did that reunion show straight after COVID lockdown, been waiting to go and get back up on stage. So I think that's why I just found everything was sort of flowing with me, and I'd sort of developed a decent recording process at home, trying to sort out the Above All stuff. So it's really just clicked in, and Ron's a bit of a studio wizard as well, as it turns out. So
nice.
So, it's been brilliant. So we just can't wait to get all the stuff out and, actually getting playing live now, which we're all eager to do, really.
The hardest part for me as a fan, it's so frustrating to meet all these incredible bands from Europe or, your situation, the UK, and you're not going to be here anytime soon, maybe if ever, right? I mean, that's the reality of being on the other side of the world. And for a guy like me who loves what I'm hearing, seeing that live, experiencing that, this is about as close as I'm going to get.
Obviously, we haven't, played as a Fate's Messenger together yet, but you do read sort of the stories of costs of touring, like merch, travel is not easy now, especially in Europe with, so we're out of the European Union. So things are sort of kind of stacked against you. Obviously, we're all full-time working dads as well, but that's not to say we're not going to be playing as many shows as possible. But you never say never.
I'm not saying never.
No, exactly. But to be fair, we just can't wait to get together and actually start playing the songs live, really. We just got to work out how to play them.
Yeah. Having you on in the last few years, Tony, that's been great because I've been able to develop a relationship with you, and you're one of my favorite guests ever. I have to admit that the last time I think we spoke, I was extraordinarily nervous because you had this sort of a legend that preceded you, because I was listening to bands like yours and your band back in the 90s when you were buying a CD at your local record store.
for Ron, what I want to say not only is welcome and thank you so much for being a part of this today, but thank you for having the courage to connect with these guys with these incredible songs. Because, man, as I was saying before we started rolling, I heard this material and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is totally what I like. There's almost a romance to it, Ron, because it reminds me, well, I mean, it sounds, maybe that's the wrong word to use, but it reminds me of a time when rock mattered. That hardcore sound is missing from today. Maybe it exists really significantly in the UK, but it doesn't here, not in the States.
There are a few bands that are doing it. So like a band from around the UK way that we're in, like Stylosis, they've kind of got that kind of sound. You've got another band called Malevolence as well, which is a breed of like. So there are a few bands that are scattered around that are doing it. But I think for us, this is kind of, and I say, I'm a bit younger than Tony, but I remember above all when I was a kid, when I was kind of 16, 17, like I knew of them and they were kind of like bands. So bands that I grew up listening to was like hardcore, where you had kind of like Vision of Disorder, like early Hatebreed, Madball, Terror, all stuff like that. And then on the metal side, like Pantera, like early Machine Head, early Fear Factory, like things like Life of Agony and stuff like that as well. Mm-hmm. So all of these different bands around that kind of time was stuff that I was really kind of into. It always made a lasting impression. And Pantera has always been one of the biggest inspirations for me, like since I was very, very young.
Yeah.
So taking that kind of sound and just putting my own twist on it and like modernizing it.
I hadn't met Ron before, and I was listening for all his stuff. You can definitely hear his influences coming through. Pantera, musically, massive one. He's got the Machine Head crunch. He's got a lot of things. He's also got that raw hardcore edge to it as well. So it's a real good mixture. But I think me and Ron, and we've all said, Will and Paul, the bassist, we're kind of trying to write stuff that we actually like listening to. So, like there are some like bands in the UK at the moment who I really, really loving. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love all the hardcore. I do love a lot of the hardcore stuff. I mean, there's some brilliant bands from like down here. There's a new band, not new, but they've just released an album called the band's called Split Knuckle. Their album is absolutely incredible. Oh. Just different level. They're a hardcore band. They've been going for quite a few years. Still young guys, and it's a real fusion of hardcore, metal, death metal. Very, very good. But I'd say Malevolence. Ron's already mentioned them. Really like those. Seen them a few times recently. Me being honest, I did step away from the music scene for quite a while. Oh, don't get me wrong, I still listen to the tunes, but not really going to too many shows just because of work, family, and everything else. Now I'm sort of back more into it. I'm going to a lot more shows when I can fit things in, and you do get really inspired. But there's, to be honest with you, there are a hell of a lot of US bands as well, European bands all over the place. And I just think, as well as production levels have really improved, people use technology as well. So there's a hell of a lot of good stuff out there. It's just, we've just got to find our little niche where we're going to slot in. But I think, we've got a lot of thrash influence as well. Obviously, Ron's guitar playing. And Will's...
There's kind of like a bit of Exodus sprinkled in there.
That's not a bad thing.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, Rob, there's a couple of our tunes. But the thing I love about Fates is, back in the day when you'd sort of maybe writing with Above All and probably Rob some of his other bands, Ron's other bands, you might come up with something in the practice room and everyone would sort of go, oh, no, that's too, there was quite a lot of restriction and sort of self-imposed barriers that you put in place because it was too metal or it was too this. It was too,
right. Outside of our genre.
Yeah. With Fates, not that we've ever really said it, but I think for us, it's anything goes really. If we like it and it sounds good, it sits well in the tune, then it stays, in my opinion. I think you'd go along with that, Ron, wouldn't you?
I mean, that's the thing. If you look at, listen to the spectrum of sound that we've got in the track, so obviously the one that you've heard, there's kind of elements of Fear Factory in there.
Very much.
Like the chorus.
Yeah, I'd say that, yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got like the hardcore elements, like the little beat downy sections and stuff, and a little bit of thrash, a bit of groove. And then like some of the other tracks is like a bit more out and out hardcore. And then you've got one that's like a proper bluesy sort of like, it's got southern sort of metal tinge to it.
Very much so, yeah.
And then one that's like out and out like DB kind of stuff. So there's quite a concoction of styles thrown in there, but it all works together.
Yeah, I think
great.
I think when we play live, I think you're going to see, even though some of the songs are quite varied in how they're structured and sound, it's not gonna be someone going, oh look, that band's trying to sound like this for that song.
Right.
I think everything blends in pretty well. Like I say, anything really go. We don't set out to go right. Okay, it's got to be. I mean, to be honest with you, we haven't really had to say any of this because Ron's just had all these tunes sitting there. And the thing is, and once you get Will's drumming as well, which is different level.
Great drummer, by the way.
Yeah, he's in. I mean, I know he was in Romeo Must Die.
Yeah.
The fact that he hasn't really been in a touring band since then is quite unbelievable. And I did say to him when I was talking to him about Above All, and I was like, look, I don't think it's going to happen. I was like, mate, you need to be playing in a band. And I said, so that's blowing smoke up Will's posterior.
He's a militant little drummer.
Yeah, he's incredible.
That's the thing. And like his playing style has gone on leaps and bounds since back in the Romeo day, because obviously Romeo was like in metalcore, but kind of like, you know, it was more thrash based. His drumming from then to now gone on massively, and like some of these tracks are sent over and there's some blast beats in there. He's like, oh, fuck. He's like, I don't do blast beats. I'm like, well, you do now, mate.
To be fair,
away and he's come back.
Yeah,
but he's got away, come back, and he's like, I do blast beats. They sound all right, don't they? I'm like, yeah, I'm putting more in now.
Yeah, this goes back to we've put these, you know, in our opinion, great songs together. We've got to work out how we're going to play them live. We'll get that sorted, because there are quite a lot of challenging musically and vocally, you know, bits in there. But you know, we're pretty confident we can do it. But I've always brought, and I know Ron would have done in any of his band, we've always, you know, been quite competent, powerful performers. So you know, hopefully we'll bring that energy and rawness to you know, when we finally get out there and play. But also Paul, he's a great bassist, but Paul plays guitar as well, doesn't he, Ron? I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a guitarist, and it was a last minute thing. We were like, should we get Paul involved in it?
Wow.
Like, well, should we get him on guitar? And Bill was like, nah, let's get him to play bass. We'll keep it as a 4-piece. I was like, yeah, done it.
And I think
nice.
Well, we've had the discussion to keep it as a 4-piece just because it's working so well the way we've got it. And I'm not saying if we did bring someone else in, but at the moment with the writing process and how we're all clicking and just, you know, we've got a good vibe, WhatsApp group, everyone's just like, let's not change it for now. Let's just see how it goes. And if we can play live, it'll work, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to add another egg to the recipe, man. It's enough.
No, if it's working, you know, like you say, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
You're used to each other's feel.
Yeah, it's not going to be like we're walking into a practice room and be standing there looking at each other going, right, you know, we all know our bits. Don't get me wrong, it will need practice together, but we're not starting from afresh. We should be, you know, way down the line. So
but it's no different. It's no different to a lot of touring bands anyway. Like, you think they'll kind of go, right, we're going on tour, right? A couple of days before tour, they'll get in the studio for a day, they'll smash out the songs, and then they'll go out and tour.
Yeah, it's not the days of the garage bands of the 60s where you had to rehearse for 3 months before you went out on tour. You know, everybody's sort of at the top of their game nowadays. There's a sort of expectation. You see so many amazing musicians on YouTube, and all you think is, that guy can replace me. I better be on my game.
Yeah, the standard of musicianship across the world is just ridiculous. And you see, you know, you get from young kids, but even like the hardcore bands, you know, guitar, everything about it, production, sound, it's different levels. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting up there and playing. To be honest with you, that's what I've missed. But in my experience, no matter how prepared you are, if you started at the beginning of the tour to how you sound at the end of the tour, you're like a well-oiled machine by the end of it. You're an absolute tank, just steamrolling everything. You know, you'll be good at the beginning. By the time you get to that, you know, say the 10th show, you're back up rolling like as you were 100%. And that's just also, you know, working the crowd. Hopefully you're going down well. I think whereas metal and hardcore's got so much bigger these days as well, it seems to be on a real sort of spike. It definitely is in this country. I'm really looking forward to playing mixed, varied bills, but just see if we're going down well, just to get in that crowd reaction participation, because I back our tracks. I think, you know, we should go down pretty well, really.
What you're talking about hardcore metal, all these things becoming sort of the top of the game now, meaning that half the world's paying attention. If Gojira can sell out stadiums, something has changed. Well,
I mean, I love that band.
I do too. I mean, it may be my favorite band in the world. I love Gojira.
For me, when I heard, as much as recording and developing our sound, Whereas before, back in the day, I would have probably gone, oh, they're too metal, or they're this, that, and these. When you get a little bit older, you haven't got those barriers in front of you. And when I think I first heard From Mars to Sirius, that album for me,
God,
that was a game changer. Absolute incredible album. But for me, that album was the perfect mixture. That's where they sort of they were a little bit more death than sort of in the beginning, and they've sort of fused and they've just created their own sound, haven't they? Which is what I think all bands eventually do, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You guys are a perfect recipe. Again, you talk about that. You're a 4-piece band. You switched over a bit. Paul's playing bass now, not guitar, which is great because it sounds exactly like it's supposed to sound. Again, the single is appealing because it works on so many levels. And what I love about it, again, I don't want to say there's romance to it, okay? I'm using maybe the wrong word, but for me, as an older person, it's romantic to me in the sense that it is bringing up memories of me as a younger man. In the mid 90s, I was in my late 20s, early 30s. So hearing Above All in, what was it, 96, Tony?
Yeah, 96, I think, yeah.
Hearing it in that range, I was literally half of my life ago, but it takes me back to a time when there was still hope.
Yeah,
I don't know how else to put it, because I was trying to become a significant musician myself, right? I was on the path, and it takes me back to a time where I was still dreaming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the world hadn't ground you down.
Yeah. Now it's just completely destroyed me, or I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, exactly. We're all caught up in our daily lives, stress, work, family, everything else. To me, music, like, this can sound really cliche, but it's a really good outlet, really good. I'm either running or at the gym. Ron's constantly in the gym if he's not working with the kid. I think you've always got to have an outlet, So to me, this is the perfect release for, not just digression, but just maybe obviously I've got that artistic aggression in me, which I've probably sort of parked aside for quite a few years. And then, once you get a little taste of it again, it all sort of comes flowing back again. So it's,
There's something I heard the other day, and it kind of rung really true at me. Like, I stopped playing 5 years ago, so I left Dishonor of the Crown, and I was like, well, I'm done with music. I give up. Packed everything away. And it was only like recently when Will was like, come on, you've got stuff. Come on, let's do something. I was like, yeah, all right. And then I saw this thing. And it was like, you can quit a job. You can't quit being a musician.
Yeah.
Because it's part of who you are.
Yeah.
Like, a job's a job.
Part of your DNA.
Because you have to do it. Yeah. Whereas being a musician, being creative, being an artist, it's who you are as a person. So you can step away from it, but that part will never leave you. And if it's something that, like, is what you are as a person and what constitutes you as a person, you can never step away from it. And I feel like starting it again and doing this with a guy, like, it's brought a new love of it back again because it became stagnant. Like, there was a point where I hated, like, because I was literally doing everything.
Gotcha.
And like now, having a bunch of people that are kind of that involved as well, everyone's pulling their weight, everyone's putting the same amount of effort into it, and everyone's showing it off.
Back from when I was touring, if I wasn't touring with Above All, I was out with my friends with Understand. There's a period in my life where it was just constant gigs, constant music. And I think, you do get sort of kind of sick of it and desensitized to how cool it was, And when you look back, you've got so many fond memories, and you kind of forget about the, driving through the night, no one turning up to the shows, just all the bad stuff. You just,
playing for the other bands.
But recently, where like my son, who's really got into music, and he started going to shows, and I started taking him. And that's when I started seeing people back up on stage again. I was like, oh, I'd love to have another go. And I never thought it would happen, but you get sucked back into it. But that's a very good thing, And if you can make it work with your life situation, which we can, and I think technology's really helped with that, then, all the power to us. Let's just crack on and just see where it takes us, really.
The young version of me was all about, I want to get signed, I want to get massive, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
Like, the nearly 42-year-old version of me is like, I want to play a show with my 3 daughters at the side of the stage with their ear defenders on, watching their dad play a gig. Mate, that's my bucket list now. If I can do that and play a decent show with them kids there,
happy days.
I'm happy.
I think, I've got no desire I've got no expectation. You know, if people like it, they like it. As I said, we like it, and we're writing stuff that we like playing. And to be honest with you, and this is full credit to everyone who else is in the band. I'm listening to the stuff, and I listen to it quite a lot in my own truck. And that to be one of the problems of doing this sort of vocal style is I haven't got a vocal soundproof booth at home. So the best place to practice really is driving around screaming in the truck. Now, but what I'm saying is I've listened to these tunes a lot, and I haven't got bored of them, and I'm actually quite blown away with how good. And you know, for me personally, I'm really proud of everything we've put down. I'm actually blown away how good it's sounding. So for me, that's a box tick. Whatever happens, if we don't play a show, or we'll be playing shows, or we don't get on a festival, or whatever happens, we're going to have these recordings and they'll be put out, and I'll be really proud of it. And for me, looking back, I know there's a time, and maybe the Above All record was good, but I've never been a massive fan of how we ended up sounding on record. Don't get me wrong, we were a good band back in the day, but I think our record didn't do us justice. We talked about that last time. We won't go down that road again, but I just love the stuff we've done, and I'm really proud of my performance, and I just love how Ron's put it together. I mean, even as far as the production, we were talking about sending it over to is it the Older Home studio in Sweden, when it Ron? I think.
Yeah, Buster.
Yeah, from
so Humanity's Last Breath. He's got a throne guitarist.
Yeah,
he's got his own studio and does music. Stuff,
but Ron's sort of done rough mixes, and we were all like, kind of, wow, this is actually sounding really good. So a couple of more conversations and a little bit of financial investment from all of us. Ron's literally...
It's always that.
Yeah, well, there's that, yeah. But he's mixed and mastered all of the stuff himself. And to me, I think the actual production levels are they're crazy. Can't believe, well, not I can believe, but I think that, the production is really, really strong, really up there. That it holds its weight against a lot of stuff that's coming out.
It's interesting, too, because, people talk... When they're in bands, they talk about music being therapeutic. It's something I need for me, right? It's something for my soul. It's some big, giant proclamation. But the reality is, everything we do as musicians, from the songwriting, from the germination in our brain to the songwriting process, the development, the introduction of other band members, the actual performances, the post-production is all therapy.
Oh, yeah,
it's
definitely
all therapy. And you need those different stages to get through whatever life is dealing with you. I guess I'm curious to know, do you see it the same way, or is there an alternative method to your madness? What keeps you aligned with your musical purpose?
Well, for me, I think you're right. But I've always had an outlet. I've always had different things going in my life to sort of deal with the stresses and pressures of just normal, modern day living. Whether it's been sport. I would say I've always listened to a lot of music. There's always been some sort of sporting exercise base to deal with the stresses. But as far as now, I've got back into, writing and recording. Like I say, just going through Ron's song list, and I'll just take one afresh. I'll just get down to the summer house, just start working without any lyrics. I'll start just putting down some gobbledygook, but in the patterns where I can see the vocals coming in. Then working out those sort of different bits, I've always got some sort of idea floating around my head, sort of maybe lyrical basis, for something I've read or something that's going on. All quite personal, but probably, just observations about everything that's going on in the world these days. But, and then I'll ping them out, and Ron's like, yeah, I'll see this bit, and everyone will contribute to, that sort of side of things. But I know Ron's probably got his take on it as well.
Please tell me, Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know, from like a writing perspective, for me, it is quite therapeutic. I'm one of these people that doesn't think about what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
That's the best way to be.
It kind of like, I'll sit there with a guitar and I'll go down a rabbit hole, and I'll either sit there and go, right, this is shit, like it's not going anywhere. Or 4 hours later, I'll be sat in front of a tune going, yeah, this is banging. Like it just flows, and when it works, flows really well. And I will not deny this. I'm a riff machine. I can sit there and I can riff. Whether the riffs work together or not is a different question. And that's the piece where it starts getting challenging.
Sure.
Is when it's starting to structure the tunes. And even to the sort of like, I don't know, with the mixing and production and stuff like that, it is kind of I'm going to do something, and I hope to God it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, I'm not going to do that again. Yeah, it's trial and error. And I think I had experience because I self-produced all of the Sonic the Crown stuff, so the first EP and then the album. But this is another level compared to the production on those. Like, those were very kind of like juvenile.
Well, I think you probably had you've had some experience back in those days with when probably the technology you had at the time, didn't you? Whereas so you've done a little bit of groundwork there. And like going back to the songwriting process for me, I'll be honest with you, considering when I got back into the above all sort of things, I hadn't screamed, I hadn't sung, I hadn't written any lyrics. It takes a long time to get back in that zone, I found. Yeah. Whereas with this stuff, I think I'm glad that I had been doing that stuff with Above All, because I sort of built up. I had no confidence really, because it's something that I wasn't accustomed to. No, well, because I hadn't been involved.
That seems insane. That seems impossible, Tony.
No,
come on, man.
I'm talking about music wise, because I haven't been involved with it at all. So you start questioning yourself. I'm living a completely different life. But what I found with this band, even with tunes like the one we're working on at the moment that we haven't finished, I just went down there, blank canvas, and I had the title. Like I say, I'll just... Yeah, actually, I've stolen it from Hallam, the bass player from Above All. It's a great title. It's called The Serpent's Coil. Yeah, it's very good. Nice. And it was going to be a sort of work in progress that Above All never... And I said to Hallam, I said, look, do you mind if I nick this? I said, I love it. I said, I really want to do something with this title. And he's like, no, you go for it, use it. Anyway, so just going down, and then I've just found with it, every tune, every song that I've put vocals down, I think I've become more confident. I'm not scared to, and because also I'm sitting there in a room on my own. Yeah. So I'm not self-conscious. There's not two people.
Right, not distracted.
No, and there's not two people sitting in front of an engineering desk staring at me going, yeah. It's just me. Don't get me wrong, it does make it a bit tricky in some of the faster bits where you're trying to get I haven't got the best mix in my headphones and I'm doing it on my own, but we make it work. And I've just found that I'm producing, and I'm also doing things with my voice, my vocal cords, that I'm just experimenting and doing different things and learning how to control it. And I have to be really self-conscious because I haven't got any soundproofing in there, and I haven't been arrested.
And your neighbours.
Yeah, I haven't been arrested by the neighbours yet. So I'm telling, it's not about being loud, it's about creating that, almost like a different character out of you. But you get that with a lot of metalcore singers now who've developed before I scream and all the deep gutturals and all that sort of stuff, which I'm not saying I can do, but I use elements of, and I thought we used it in my own.
Yeah, but
way.
It's not just, you're not just doing like, you look at like UK hardcore, a lot of kind of like bah, 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 just shout sort of like,
there's a lot of the deep aggressive,
whereas you're introducing a lot of like notes into your like, so there is that element of singing in there with the aggressive vocal, so it's being pitched properly. There's like singing notes, which is like why the choruses, some of them are like epic as hell, because it's got a singing element to it.
Definitely,
it's still brutal at the same time.
100%. I've really tried to work on that aggressive melody as such. Don't get me wrong. You go back to the early Machine Heads and bands that have done. But there's been plenty of bands who can do that, and they can do it really well. Yeah. And so I've just, it's just maybe subconscious of influence on me and stuff I like. I do like a little bit of melody. Don't get me wrong. I love someone who can actually, do the pig squeals and all that sort of stuff. Not the stuff I'm going to be doing, but that aggression and taking elements of that. And trying to inject a bit of melody into it, and I think it's coming out pretty well. But I'm really pleased with the way that's sort of progressing. And I think I had to step it up for the music, because the music is a different level from anything that I've ever done.
It's interesting too that you were saying what you were saying about recording your parts, Tony, because I think about the fact that you have a specific vocal fingerprint, if that makes sense. I know when I hear your voice that it's you. I guess that's what I was going with earlier when I was not comparing Fate's Messenger to Above All, but just saying I recognize something about this. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think you're always going to have your own tone, your own identity. It'll come through in your no matter how you try and manipulate it. People will go, "Oh yeah, that's Tony from Above All." But I've just taken those elements and sort of developed it, matured as such without sounding cliche, but I have. So you have to work on it though. Like when you first start, and especially in those sort of hardcore screamy bands, it's just like the only reason I picked up a mic is because I couldn't play an instrument. So it's like, I'll sing, I'll scream. I think I can do that. I'll blow my voice box out for 4 years without really knowing how to control it. Now I can control it. I can use it. As long as I've got some sort of monitor and I know how I'm sounding. I won't be walking away from the gigs like, not being able to speak, which there was a lot of back in the day that, as you were sort of growing up and no one really knew, that's kind of that's the pain that you had to go through to sort of where you come from. And considering I had a hell of a long time in between, not doing any vocals at all, it didn't take me too long to pick up from where I left and went, and this is, no secret. You've only got to go on YouTube and there's so many tips and videos, how to, do the fry scream, how to do the deep gutturals.
The technical aspects of
all of it. Yeah, because, I do, don't get me wrong, I do practice.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what's got me to where I am now. And I'm actually, like I say, I'm really proud of where I am now. So I'm quite, like I say though, but I think the music dictated that I needed to raise my game. And like as Ron said, I'm bringing in a bit of melody. We're also trying to keep, like Ron always makes me laugh. He's like, that's really hooky. That's like that's the hook. Because it is. It's about having the hook in the chorus. And yeah, or or having the sort of gang chant, the chanty groove bits to it. So we're just trying to make it sort of as like I say, we're writing stuff that we want to hear. So and there's a really good mixture of stuff going in there, really, because I think we all like a hell of a lot of different stuff. So there's going to be influence from everywhere, really. I think.
So Tony just mentioned the word identity, and I'm going to preface this with a tiny story. So I'm 57, going on 58 years old, and in the last thank you. In the last 15 years, I have really struggled with my own identity, my purpose in life. And that's partially because the things I've made attempts at have seemingly failed. And that has frustrated me to no end. And I've become angrier as I've gotten older. Like I would be much better in a hardcore band today than I ever would have been when I was 20. Right? Yeah. I'm a pissed off old man.
There's a lot of frustration there.
Yeah, there is. But the thing is I was talking to a buddy of mine and I was talking about identity and purpose. And he looked at me incredulously with this face of just like, I cannot believe you don't know what your purpose is. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm gummed up inside, messed up, angry, whatever it is. He goes, Rob, you know what your purpose is, man? It's just really simple. That's why you're successful with the podcast, why you're successful public speaking, why you're successful with the radio job is because your purpose is people. How you influence others. And that's actually all of our purposes. I mean, I get it. Maybe it's a little 30,000 foot view, but it's still this idea that we all exist because we are like pinballs. We're bouncing off each other. And I look at Ron and he comes on and he's this incredibly kind guy. You'd mentioned, Tony, that he's a workout maniac. He's got ink, he's got
the look.
So I actually want to start with you, Ron. When you hear the word identity or purpose, how does that translate for you at this point in your life?
It's a difficult question. I don't know. The thing is, my personal identity and purpose is being a good role model for my kids. And that sounds like
fantastic,
a cliche thing to say. But I wasn't always a good role model. And I think, I jacked in drinking about 5 years ago. I haven't gone near drugs for a very long time. So I got into training and my purpose was to show my girls what kind of people they should interact with as they get older. So I'm going to be the trendsetter. I've got to be that role model to them. So although I'm like in the gym all the time and I'm covered in tattoos, that's my personal thing. That's my look that I enjoy having. Look, and I've always been fascinated by it since I was very young. And I remember seeing people that were tattooed and I was amazed by it. So that's what kind of shaped this look. The gym's for my personal fit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not bothered about other people's opinions. Like, I do this for me, not for anyone else. You know, it's about being happy with myself, about doing the things that I enjoy doing. You know, guiding them the right way. I say 3 people because my partner's got like a little boy as well, so 4 really. My 3 girls. So I think that's kind of my purpose. And when you look at the music side, I think that's for my own benefit. That's my outlet. That's my having fun kind of thing.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I love the idea of saying that your look, for example, too, is not your identity, meaning like you doing that for you. It's not like you're trying to make a statement. You're just being Ron. And that's badass. But the idea of being a role model for our kids, the only people that should matter. I'm a perfect example of somebody who's so self-absorbed. I'm not trying to be. I have just this broken edge to me that keeps me distant, and I have to really fight it to engage with my wife, with my children, with my grandchildren, because I'm so micro focused on the things I want or the failures I'm currently walking through that I'm not present. So I really applaud what you're saying, Ron, because I think it's fantastic. How about you, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, identity-wise, I've always been the sort of family dad and done all that sort of stuff. And like I say, where I stepped away from music for probably quite a few more years than like Ron has, bringing this back into I think getting to a certain age and certain things that sort of really brought it home to me. Because maybe we're like going through COVID lockdown and then, you know, losing close friends. You sort of become, I started looking inward a little bit more and sort of thinking, maybe introducing things back into my life that, and then, you know, don't get me wrong, family's first, but also the stuff that I've sort of walked away from. Why did I walk away from it? Why can't I still do it now? You know, obviously I'm really busy with work and, you know, we've got a very busy, stressful business, but there's no reason why I can't incorporate all of these things I used to do back into my life. And much as I'm not too sure how some members of my family are feeling about all this stuff, but their idea of music is maybe not the same as mine. So I think they can probably appreciate that for what I do. I'm actually reasonable at it, you know. And if it makes you happy, I think sometimes I try not to think about worrying about it too much. To be like Ron was saying, he doesn't think too much. He just does. There's plenty of other things in my life where I have to worry about certain things. So I'm really at the moment trying not to worry about what I should be doing. Should I be doing this? I'm doing how I really feel. You know, gut instinct. Yeah, you should be doing this, Tony. You know, also self-rev, because the older you get, you realise. What I don't want to be doing is looking back and going, oh, I wish I'm going to do it now while I still can. I'm still fit and healthy, which is good. Yeah. You know, I'm really training hard again. And one of the main driving factors, I started doing loads and loads of running and cardio, is because I know I'm going to need to have that cardio when I'm playing this sort of stuff live. And
for sure.
And seriously, I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go running. And I'm not a massive fan of running. No, I'm starting to enjoy it now. Because that's the one main that's what's getting me up in the morning, not the fact that I'm going to get fit. Because I know I've got to be able to get up on stage and do this. Everything sort of it's tying in, and it's weird. I'd say my identity, the Tony that people know outside of music, like people at work, would be absolutely gobsmacked. And I've actually had to come out of my shell a little bit with this, because obviously with social media. You know, I've always kept it pretty quiet, so I wouldn't post too much stuff on my own private personal page. But I'm doing this with Fates, and I think people are just like, "What?" You know, people. Don't get me wrong.
Who was that guy?
Yeah, what? It's like my wife was. She was out somewhere and saw one of our old friends we knew from when our kids were growing up at school, and she's like, "Nancy, I've got to tell you, I was so shocked. I was so shocked. That was Tony." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean." And that's not an embarrassment thing. But the thing is with our sort of music is you try to explain to someone what you sound like when they're maybe into something like, you know, modern pop or something like that, and they've no real, they haven't been out listening to any stuff that's remotely heavy. Trying to explain to someone what you sound like is quite difficult, isn't it? And sometimes I'm just like, that's why I've just sort of kept it separate. But now I'm having to sort of introduce it a little bit more, because I'm hoping that if things do happen for Fates, I'm going to be standing there proud and saying, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one for me, and it's like I say, it's not an embarrassment thing, but I think those two worlds are so far apart.
Different world.
Yeah, I think with Ron, obviously, like I say, his look it's a strong look. People will probably judge Ron and say, "Oh,
absolutely."
Now, what I'm saying is, if he said I'm into really heavy music, people probably wouldn't be surprised.
Right,
Maybe people would. No, and that's not a criticism. That's just association, isn't it?
Right.
Whereas
assumptions.
That's why when someone says, "What do you play?" I say country and western.
But I think like with any sort of opinions on our sort of music, for me, go to see a live band, a live metal hardcore show or a hardcore show, and you see the energy and the passion and people going off and singing along and just having fun and enjoying it for what it is. To me, that it needs to be sampled in that live environment, you know. Whereas you can listen to it on CD or, you know, online on the radio, and you'll be like, "Oh, I'm not really into that music." But I think if you actually just appreciate a good live show and something that comes across really well with all that energy, I think that's when people will appreciate and would understand and go, "Well, it's not my sort of thing, but you're pretty good at what you do." And that's, you know, as far as my identity goes, and that's what I'm just going with the flow, not worrying about it too much and just enjoying it and getting back to what I know that I can do, you know. I'll be doing this for as long as I can basically physically do it now. This is going to sound really cheesy, but that flame's been reignited again, and I'm recording stuff now that I'm really proud of. So I'm just going to keep going with it.